The blind date was empty, until the black twins walked in and said, "Our father apologizes for being late." "Sorry, but are you sure you're in the right place?" The question came from the blonde waitress with an arched eyebrow and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's just, well, maybe there's been some mistake." Amanda Richardson looked around the posh cafe in the city's most upscale neighborhood, her fingers drumming nervously on the marble table. It was 7:23 p.m. Jason was 23 minutes late for the blind date her friend Michelle had arranged. "No, I'm in the right place," Amanda replied, forcing a polite smile. "Waiting for someone." The waitress gave a condescending chuckle. "Oh, I see. Well, maybe he changed his mind? It happens a lot here. People sometimes realize they've made inappropriate choices." Amanda felt the heat rise to her neck. At 29, a Harvard-trained doctor and specialist in pediatric cardiology, she was used to curious stares. But that tone, that malicious insinuation that perhaps she didn't belong in that environment, ignited something familiar within her. "I'll wait a little longer," she said calmly, her voice carrying a serenity that only those who have weathered worse storms can maintain. That's when the glass doors opened and two small figures came running in. Twins of about 8 years old, both black like her, perfectly combed curly hair, and clothes that screamed upper middle class. They stopped in the middle of the cafe, looked around with determination, and to Amanda's astonishment, walked directly toward her. "Are you Amanda?" asked the boy, slightly taller than his sister. "Yes," she replied, confused. "Our father apologizes for being late," said the girl with adorable formality. "He's stuck at the hospital. Emergency surgery." Amanda blinked several times. "Your father is?" "Dr. Jason Walker," they said in unison. "Neurosurgeon at Central Hospital." The waitress, who had been eavesdropping on the conversation, paled. Dr. Jason Walker was well known in town, one of the most respected neurosurgeons, often featured in the local media. And he was black. "Wait," Amanda leaned forward, "you two came here alone to tell me this?" The twins exchanged a knowing look that hinted at a much more interesting story behind this chance encounter. "Actually," whispered the boy, "Dad doesn't know we're here. But we heard him on the phone last night. He was really nervous about today's meeting." "Really nervous," agreed his sister. "He put gel in his hair 3 times. Amanda laughed despite her confusion. "And you decided to come here on your own?" "We convinced Grandma to bring us," the boy admitted. "We said it was a school emergency." The waitress stood there, clearly uncomfortable with the turn of events. That black woman she had judged inappropriate for the environment was being sought after by Dr. Walker, a man she would probably try to impress if she had the chance. "And why did you do that?" Amanda asked, genuinely curious. The twins again exchanged that conspiratorial look, as if sharing secrets that adults would never understand. "Because," the girl said quietly, "Daddy hasn't really smiled in a long time. But when Aunt Michelle showed him her picture, he smiled the way Mommy used to make him smile before she left." Amanda felt her heart tighten. "Your mother?" "She died when we were 5, the boy explained with the painful naturalness of children who learn early about loss. "Dad never wanted to meet anyone else after that. Until now." The silence that followed was heavy, laden with emotions that transcended a simple frustrated blind date. Amanda looked at those two brave little creatures who had risked a scolding to save their father's date and felt something shift inside her chest. But there was something in the twins' eyes, a cunning intelligence, that suggested that this mission to save the date was just the tip of the iceberg of a much more elaborate plan. If you're enjoying this story of how two little cupids turned an almost lost date into something much bigger, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what these twins were really up to will surprise you much more than you can imagine. The waitress, whom Amanda now noticed had a name tag that read Brittany, stood there as if she were part of the furniture, clearly trying to process how someone like that had become the center of attention for two obviously well-behaved children. "Children," Brittany said with a forced sweetness that made Amanda want to roll her eyes. "Are you sure you're not confused? Maybe your father is waiting somewhere else. No, ma'am, the boy replied firmly. Dad said Maple Avenue Cafe, corner table, 6:30. And the lady with curly hair and a pretty smile. Amanda felt the heat rise to her cheeks. Had Jason described her like that? Oh, said her sister, opening a small backpack, and he sent this to prove we're really his kids. She took out an envelope and handed it to Amanda. Inside was a photo, Jason in hospital scrubs, hugging the twins, all smiling. On the back, in hurried masculine handwriting, Amanda, if you're reading this, it means my sons have made a decision that I will probably regret not having had the courage to make myself. Please don't run away. Jason. Wait, Amanda looked at them both with growing suspicion. You said your father doesn't know you're here. The twins looked at each other again with that conspiratorial complicity. Well, the girl began, technically he doesn't know we came now. But he knew we might come if he was too late. He gave us the photo last night, the boy admitted. And he said that if anything happened at the hospital today, we knew where to find her. Amanda laughed incredulously. So this was planned. Kind of, said the girl, shrugging with the ease of a child who had clearly inherited her father's strategic intelligence. Brittany cleared her throat loudly. Sorry to interrupt this cute family reunion, but this is a serious establishment. Perhaps it would be better if you continued this conversation elsewhere. The suggestion was loaded with innuendo that made Amanda clench her fists. She had faced this kind of suggestion her whole life, from the whispers in medical school about how she was probably there because of affirmative action, to the veiled comments about how impressive it was for a young black woman to complete a residency in pediatric cardiology. Actually, Amanda said with the icy calm she had perfected over the years, I think we'll stay right where we are. After all, I'm waiting for Dr. Walker, who, as I recall, is one of the biggest donors to this establishment's annual charity campaign. Brittany paled. The cafe's charity drive was famous in town, and Jason Walker was indeed a well-known figure, not only for his work at the hospital, but also for his philanthropy. I didn't mean to imply, she stammered. Of course not, Amanda smiled sweetly. I'm sure your suggestions are always made with the best of intentions. The twins watched the exchange with wide eyes, clearly impressed with how Amanda had handled the situation without losing her composure. Wow, whispered the boy, you're just like Dad when other doctors try to act important around him. What do you mean? Amanda asked, curious. Dad is the head of the neurosurgery department, the girl explained proudly, but some older white doctors always try to question his decisions. Until they find out that he studied at Johns Hopkins and saved more lives in 2 years than they have in their entire careers. Amanda felt a pang of recognition. Harvard, Johns Hopkins. They had traveled similar paths, probably facing similar obstacles. What about you? She asked, leaning forward. How do you deal with people making comments about you? Grandma taught us something important, the boy said seriously. She said that when people try to make you feel small, it's because they already know you're going to grow bigger than them. The simple, profound wisdom of that statement hit Amanda hard. How many times had she herself needed that strength? Your grandmother seems like a very wise woman. She's our mom's mother, the girl explained softly. She said that Mom was always saying that one day Dad would find someone special. Someone who understood what it's like to be different from what people expect. The weight of those words hung in the air. Amanda realized that there were layers to this story that went far beyond a simple blind date. That's when the cafe door opened urgently, and a tall man in blue scrubs came in almost running, his eyes scanning the room until they found Amanda. Even though she had never seen him before, she knew immediately that it was Jason. There was something in the way he looked directly at her, as if he recognized her. Daddy! The twins shouted in unison, jumping out of their chairs. Jason Walker approached the table with a mixture of relief, exhaustion, and something Amanda couldn't immediately identify. When he got close enough, she realized there were tears welling up in his eyes. I'm sorry, he said, his voice hoarse. The surgery, A 6-year-old with a brain tumor. We managed to save him, but... You don't have to apologize, Amanda said gently, standing up. You saved a life today. Jason looked at her as if she had said exactly the words he needed to hear. Amanda. It's me. And these, she pointed to the twins who were now hiding behind their father's legs with mischievous smiles, are two little strategists who decided to take matters into their own hands. We just wanted to make sure she didn't leave, the girl defended herself. And it worked, the boy added triumphantly. Jason looked at his children, then at Amanda, and something flashed across his face. Gratitude, admiration, and a deeper emotion that made Amanda's heart race. But there was something in the twins' eyes, a satisfaction that went beyond simply saving Dad's date. They knew something. They had planned something. And from the way they exchanged conspiratorial glances while Jason and Amanda talked, the date at the cafe was just the first step in a much more elaborate plan. The question Amanda couldn't get out of her head was, what exactly had these two little cupids discovered about her that made them so sure she was the right person for their father? Because the way they looked at her suggested they knew much more than two 8-year-olds should know about blind dates and adult matters. Jason hugged the twins quickly, but Amanda could see the tension in his shoulders, a mixture of relief that she had arrived and obvious concern about what his children had gotten up to. I'm so sorry, he said, finally turning to her. They shouldn't have. Actually, Amanda interrupted with a genuine smile, they were perfect. They completely saved this date. Brittany cleared her throat loudly, clearly annoyed at having lost control of the situation. Dr. Walker, I'm glad you're here. Perhaps you could finish this meeting somewhere else? We have other customers waiting. Amanda looked around the half-empty cafe and raised an eyebrow. Other customers. Well, Jason said calmly, pulling out a chair, considering this table was reserved specifically for us, I think we'll stay right where we are. It was then that Amanda noticed something interesting. Some of the other customers in the cafe, all white, all visibly upper class, had stopped talking and were watching their table with ill-concealed curiosity. It wasn't admiration. It was the kind of observation people make when something out of place happens in their territory. Daddy, whispered the twin girl, the lady was really nice to us. She even stared down the rude waitress. Stared down how? Jason asked, his voice taking on a protective tone. The waitress suggested that maybe I was in the wrong place, Amanda explained diplomatically. Jason's jaw twitched slightly. I see. But Amanda was amazing, the boy added admiringly. She mentioned that you were a donor to the charity campaign, and the waitress turned pale. Jason looked at Brittany, who had moved a few steps away but could still hear the conversation. Interesting. Are you familiar with this establishment's policies on customer treatment? Daddy, the girl tugged at his sleeve, there's more. More what? The twins looked at each other with that conspiratorial complicity again, and Amanda realized there were definitely more layers to this story. Tell her what Grandma found out, the boy whispered. Found out what? Amanda asked, curious. Jason sighed deeply. My mother-in-law, who is a retired lawyer, has a habit of investigating people and places before I go out with someone. It's the first time in 2 years, so she got a little excited. And what did she find out? That this particular cafe, the girl said with the seriousness of a child who had clearly rehearsed that line, has an interesting history of misunderstandings with black customers. Amanda blinked, surprised. What do you mean? 3 lawsuits in the last 2 years, Jason explained reluctantly. All quietly dismissed. My mother-in-law has her connections in the legal world. And why did you choose this place anyway? Amanda asked. Because, the boy said proudly, Grandma said that if Amanda was the right person, she wouldn't be intimidated. It was like a test. Amanda laughed incredulously. Your mother-in-law tested me through her choice of coffee? She also found out other things about you, the girl added with a mischievous smile. What kind of things? Jason looked visibly uncomfortable. Rose, maybe we shouldn't. That you sued your old hospital for racial discrimination and won, Rose said quickly before her father could stop her. The silence stretched on for a few seconds. Amanda felt that familiar feeling of exposure, when people found out about the lawsuit she had filed against St. Mary's Hospital 3 years ago. How did she find that out? Amanda asked calmly. Grandma knows everyone, the boy explained. She said that any black doctor who had the courage to sue a prestigious hospital and win would be strong enough to handle our family. Our family. Amanda repeated. Jason took a deep breath. Amanda, my wife was white. The twins are biracial. They face complicated situations sometimes. Rose thought you would understand that better than other people. Amanda looked at the children. Curly hair, light skin, delicate features that blended their heritage. She recognized something familiar in their gaze, that constant vigilance that biracial children develop early, trying to navigate between worlds that don't always fully welcome them. And you too, she said, leaning forward, agreed with Grandma's plan? We did our own research too, Rose admitted. What kind of research? You have Instagram, the boy said matter-of-factly. And YouTube. Amanda laughed. You stalked my Instagram? Grandma taught us, Rose said unabashedly. You have a video explaining heart surgery to children. It's really cool. And your photos showed that you like children, the boy added. There are several with your nephews. Jason shook his head, clearly mortified. I swear I didn't participate in this investigation. Dad didn't even know, Rose confirmed. Grandma said men are terrible at choosing partners, so she was going to help. At that moment, Brittany approached the table again, carrying a tray with coffee. Dr. Walker, I made a special coffee for you. On the house. She placed the cup in front of Jason with a forced smile, completely ignoring Amanda and the children. How kind, Jason said coldly. But I think my fiancé would like some coffee too. Amanda almost choked. Fiancé. Oh, Jason winked at her with a mischievous smile. Sorry. We haven't made it official yet. But, he raised his voice slightly, considering how brilliantly you handled certain situations today, I think it's worth anticipating the question. The twins began to laugh, and Amanda realized that this family had definitely planned much more than a simple blind date. Brittany stood still, holding the tray, clearly unsure how to react to the turn of events. Actually, Amanda said, looking directly at Brittany, I think I'd like to speak to the manager first. I have a few questions about this establishment's customer service policies. Jason smiled slowly. Excellent idea. Coincidentally, I know the owner. We play tennis together. It was then that Amanda realized that this evening wasn't just about a blind date that had gone well. It was about two people who had learned to navigate a world that didn't always welcome them with open arms. Two people who had raised children brave enough to arrange dates and smart enough to test the character of potential partners. And from the look on Brittany's face, who now understood that she had completely underestimated everyone at that table, the real lesson of the night was just beginning. But there was something in the twins' eyes, a satisfaction that went far beyond simply matching Dad with a nice person. They knew something about that coffee shop, about Brittany, perhaps about the whole situation that had not yet been revealed. And from the way Jason discreetly checked his cell phone and waved to someone outside, Amanda got the impression that her mother-in-law's investigation had uncovered much more than just filed lawsuits. The question that hung in the air was, exactly how much of this situation had been carefully orchestrated, and what was the real test that was yet to come? The cafe door opened again, and this time a middle-aged man, well-dressed but friendly-looking, walked straight over to their table. Brittany instantly paled. Jason, the man greeted warmly. I got your message. So this is the famous Amanda Rose keeps talking about. Amanda, this is Michael Harrison, owner of Maple Avenue Cafe, Jason introduced with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Mike, this is Amanda Richardson, and apparently we've had some interesting experiences with your customer service today? Michael looked at Brittany, who now looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. What kind of experiences? Well, Amanda said calmly, your employee suggested that I might be in the wrong place when I arrived. Then she implied that my date had probably changed his mind about inappropriate choices. Michael's face hardened. Brittany, is that true? I was just trying to, Brittany stammered. And there's more, Rose interrupted with the confidence of a child who knows she's in the right. She was very rude to Amanda. And she ignored us when Dad arrived. Kids, Jason said gently, how about you tell Mr. Michael about Grandma's research? The twins looked at each other with that now familiar conspiratorial smile. Grandma found out some interesting things about this cafe, the boy said seriously. What kind of things? Michael asked, though his tone suggested he might already know the answer. 3 discrimination lawsuits in the last 2 years, Rose recited as if it were her multiplication tables. All quietly settled after financial agreements. Michael sighed deeply. And what else did your grandmother find out? That Brittany was involved in at least 2 of the cases, the boy continued. And that the cafe has a, as Grandma said, problematic organizational culture. Brittany opened her mouth to protest, but Michael raised his hand. Brittany, you may leave. We'll talk tomorrow. But Mr. Harrison, I didn't. Now, Brittany. As she walked away, visibly shaken, Michael turned to Jason and Amanda. May I sit down? When he settled in, he took a deep breath. There are a few things you need to know. First, this establishment has been under investigation by the Civil Rights Department for 6 months. Amanda and Jason exchanged glances. Second, Michael continued, I received a very interesting call today from a certain Rose Walker, your mother-in-law Jason, offering her pro bono legal services to help clean house. Grandma called you? Rose asked, feigning innocence. Your grandmother, Michael said with obvious admiration, is a force of nature. She sent me a complete dossier on patterns of discriminatory behavior here, including audio recordings. Recordings? Amanda asked. The boy pulled a small device from his pocket. Grandma taught us that evidence is important. We've been recording everything since we arrived. Amanda looked at the device, then at Jason, then at the twins. You recorded everything? Grandma said that if we were going to test you, we should also document how other people behaved, Rose explained matter-of-factly. Jason nodded, impressed. My mother-in-law turned our first date into a full-blown investigative operation. And it worked, the boy added proudly. Amanda passed all the tests. What tests? Amanda asked, though she was already beginning to suspect. Test 1, how you would react to microaggressions, Rose listed on her fingers. Test 2, whether you would defend children. Test 3, whether you would remain calm under pressure. Test 4, whether you would use daddy's privilege wisely or arrogantly. And Test 5. Amanda asked, fascinated, whether you would be brave enough to confront injustice even when it was uncomfortable, the boy added. Michael laughed, genuinely impressed. Your mother-in-law basically used my cafe as a social laboratory. And the best part, Jason added, is that she documented everything for you to use in employee training reform. Wait, Amanda turned to Jason, you knew about all this? Not the details, he admitted. Rose just told me she had checked you and the meeting place. I didn't know she had orchestrated a full-blown character test operation. Amanda looked around the cafe, where other customers were now discreetly watching the conversation at their table. Some looked uncomfortable, as if they finally understood that they had witnessed something important. So, she said slowly, this whole meeting was genuine on Dad's part, Rose assured her. He really wanted to meet you. Grandma just made sure all the variables were controlled. And that we'd be here to help if needed, the boy added. Michael stood up. Well, thanks to Mrs. Walker's operation, I have enough evidence to make real changes here. And, he looked at Amanda, I'd like to offer you lifetime dinners as an apology for what happened today. That's not necessary, Amanda said graciously. I insist. And Jason, tell Rose I accept her proposal to review our policies. As Michael walked away to deal with the situation, Amanda turned to Jason and the twins. So, she said with a growing smile, your family basically tested me, documented everything, and turned a blind date into a social justice operation? That's about right, Jason admitted, looking slightly embarrassed. And you too, she looked at the twins, are little secret agents? Grandma trained us well, Rose said proudly. Amanda laughed, a genuine joyful laugh that made other people in the cafe look over curiously. You know what's most impressive, she said. You didn't just test me. You created evidence to help other people who might go through the same situation. Grandma said individual justice is good, but systemic justice is better, the boy quoted seriously. Jason took Amanda's hand across the table. So, do you still want a second date? I promise it will be less investigative. Amanda looked at him, then at the twins, then at the cafe around them where a small silent revolution had just taken place. Actually, she said with a twinkle in her eye, I think I want to meet this grandmother who orchestrated all of this. Any woman who can turn a first date into a lesson in social justice is definitely someone I need in my life. The twins burst into victorious smiles, and Jason realized that Amanda had not only passed Rose's tests, she had found her family. But there was one last surprise waiting, something even the strategic Rose hadn't fully anticipated. Because when you put together a doctor who sued a hospital for discrimination, a neurosurgeon who faces prejudice daily, two little strategist twins, and a retired lawyer with a thirst for justice, the result goes far beyond a simple happy ending. It creates an unstoppable force that was about to change much more than just their own lives. 6 months later, the Maple Avenue Cafe had become a symbol of transformation in the city. Michael Harrison implemented a diversity training program that became a national success story. Brittany? Fired the next day, she was never able to find another job in customer service. The twins' recordings circulated discreetly among local employers. Amanda and Jason were married in an intimate ceremony, with Rose and the twin as godparents. Grandma Rose Walker, now the city's official social justice consultant, had orchestrated much more than a meeting. She had created a family united by the fight against prejudice. Grandma always said that true love doesn't happen by chance, Rose confided to Amanda during the wedding. It happens when two people who have weathered similar storms recognize each other. Amanda's practice thrived, specializing in pediatric cardiology for underprivileged children. Jason was promoted to head of the department. And the twins? They became little activists, teaching other children about equality and justice. On their first wedding anniversary, they returned to the cafe, now renovated and with trained staff. At the same table where it all began, Amanda looked at Jason and said, Your mother-in-law tested us, but she actually gave us the greatest gift. She proved that family isn't about blood, it's about who fights alongside you. Jason smiled. And the boys learned that sometimes the best revenge against prejudice is to build something beautiful in spite of it. Sometimes love comes disguised as a test. Sometimes justice needs little strategists. And sometimes the strongest family is one forged in the fight against injustice. If this story of love, family, and justice touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that prejudice always loses when we stand together with intelligence and courage.